From games shrouded in controversy to allegations of outright corruption, these are the most rigged moments in NBA history. And first, what happens when the season of your dreams collides with a nightmare on the court? Let's set the stage. Sacramento, California, 2002. A city that wasn't just a dot on the map, but the heartbeat of a franchise that adored its kings. This wasn't Los Angeles or New York. Sacramento was small market basketball at its finest. And that year, the Kings had built something extraordinary, led by stars like Chris Webber, Peja Stojakovic, and Mike Bibby. And Kings played a dazzling style of basketball, high energy, unselfish, and above all, fearless. They were the perfect foil to the Los Angeles Lakers, the reigning champions powered by the duo Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant. To the Kings, the Lakers weren't just rivals. They were the Goliath to their David. By the time Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals rolled around, the Kings were on the cusp of history. Up 3-2 in the series, Sacramento was just one win away from their first ever NBA Finals appearance. The stakes couldn't have been higher. The game, played in the hostile Staples Center, wasn't just about advancing. It was about proving that the underdog could take down the league's golden franchise. For 3 quarters, the game was as intense and physical as anyone could have expected. The Kings held their ground, trading blows with the Lakers in a battle that was shaping up to be a classic. But when the fourth quarter began, something shifted. Suddenly, the whistles started blowing, and almost all of them were in favor of the Lakers. In those final 12 minutes, Los Angeles was awarded an eye-popping 27 free throws. To put that in perspective, the Kings, an equally aggressive team, shot just 9 free throws the entire game. The calls were baffling. Shaquille O'Neal, who had spent much of the series in foul trouble, now seemed untouchable. Every time he went to the basket, the whistle blew. Kings defenders were called for questionable fouls, and some barely making contact. Meanwhile, Lakers players appeared to get away with similar or worse physically.
O'Neal, McAdams trying to buy some time. Vlade Divac had a foul. Hoping to take it back to Sacramento for a Game 7. Webber called for the offensive foul. That's number 5 on Webber on the 24. And a foul on Bryant.
Chance of a lifetime right now.
Here's Bryant putting the ball on Christie, rejected and fouled.
Webber has a great block on this ball. I'm not sure where any foul is.
The most egregious moment came in the final minutes, when Mike Bibby was struck in the face by Kobe Bryant's elbow. Instead of an offensive foul on Bryant, the referees called Bibby for a hold, sending the Lakers to the line yet again.
An elbow right in the chops.
Could have been an offensive foul.
The Kings, who had fought so valiantly, now seemed like they were battling more than just the Lakers. They were battling the officials too. The Lakers would go on to win Game 6, 106-102, forcing a Game 7 in Sacramento. The momentum had shifted irreparably. The Kings fought hard in the decisive game, but fell short in overtime, and the Lakers advanced to the NBA Finals, eventually winning their 3rd consecutive championship. Years later, the controversy surrounding Game 6 grew even darker. Former referee Tim Donaghy eventually became embroiled in his own scandal, and went on to allege that league officials had deliberately influenced the game to ensure a Game 7 for higher ratings. According to Donaghy, it wasn't just incompetence, it was manipulation. And to this day, Game 6 remains one of the most controversial games in NBA history. But sometimes, the drama starts before the game even begins. See, in 1985, the NBA introduced the draft lottery, a new system designed to curb teams from deliberately tanking for the top pick. It was meant to ensure fairness and keep the league competitive. But when the first ever lottery rolled around, it immediately became the source of one of the NBA's greatest conspiracy theories. The stakes couldn't have been higher. That year, there was one man who stood out as the crown jewel, Georgetown's Patrick Ewing, a generational talent and one of the most highly coveted prospects in basketball history. With his dominant size, defensive prowess, and offensive versatility, Ewing was expected to single-handedly transform whichever team landed him. The lottery was broadcast live on national television. Commissioner David Stern stood front and center, tasked with pulling envelopes from a large drum to determine the draft order. But when Stern pulled one of the league's most prominent yet struggling franchises, the New York Knicks, as the winners of the first pick, the reaction was immediate. Fans, analysts, and rival teams couldn't believe it. The Kings had been floundering for years, and Madison Square Garden, one of the NBA's most iconic venues, needed a hero to reignite its glory days. The league itself desperately wanted a stronger foothold in the largest media market, and a result like this seemed almost too good to be true. But how do fans fans think the league pulled this off? Well, conspiracy theorists quickly lashed into one explanation: the bent envelope. According to this theory, the Knicks envelope was deliberately marked to ensure it would be easily identified. Slow-motion replays of the live broadcast showed Jack Wagner, a representative from Ernst & Whitney, tossed the envelope into the drum. Eagle-eyed viewers claimed one envelope struck the edge of the drum, and when Stern reached in to draw the winner, some believe he deliberately felt for that specific envelope in order to guarantee the Knicks landed the pick. Adding fuel to the fire, skeptics also pointed to how the envelope was handled. They alleged it had been chilled beforehand so Stern could identify it by touch. Others suggested that Stern, knowing the Knicks' importance to the league's financial success, was part of a grand scheme to orchestrate the result. At the time, the NBA was in the midst of a resurgence, led by stars like Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, but the league's popularity in its largest market, New York City, was fading fast. A revitalized Knicks franchise led by a star like Patrick Ewing could drive ticket sales, TV ratings, and merchandise revenue through the roof. The conspiracy gained even more traction as Ewing immediately became the face of the Knicks and helped transform them into perennial contenders. While the Knicks didn't win a championship during his tenure, Ewing's presence reestablished New York as a marquee NBA franchise throughout the 1990s. In interviews years later, Stern denied any wrongdoing, calling the theory ridiculous and maintaining that the lottery was conducted fairly. The NBA also pointed to Ernst & Whitney, an independent accounting firm which oversees the process and verified its integrity. Still, fans weren't convinced. The idea of the league rigging the lottery was too compelling and perhaps too convenient, but no one could deny the next scandal though. Because what happens when the people trusted uphold the rules are the ones breaking them? In 2007, the NBA faced one of its darkest moments, a scandal that sent shockwaves through the league. Referee Tim Donaghy, a 13-year veteran official, was exposed for betting on games he personally officiated. Between 2005 and 2007, Donaghy placed wagers on more than 100 NBA games, profiting off his inside knowledge and strategic influence over critical calls. Donaghy admitted to working with high-stakes gamblers, feeding them confidential information about player injuries, referee assignments, and tendencies that could tilt the odds in their favor. But his most damning confession, he deliberately made calls or avoided them to influence point spreads. One glaring example occurred during the 2007 game between the Memphis Grizzlies and the Boston Celtics. Donaghy admitted to extending foul calls against Memphis players to ensure the Celtics would cover the spread, a move that directly benefited his bets. What made matters worse was Donaghy's claim that he wasn't alone. He alleged that other referees were pressured by league executives to favor certain teams, especially in high-profile matchups or playoff series. One accusation even suggested the infamous 2002 Western Conference Finals, known for its questionable officiating, was manipulated to ensure the Lakers advanced to the NBA Finals. For fans, Donaghy's revelations posed a chilling question. If a single referee could alter the course of games for years without detection, how many others might have done the same? And how deep could the corruption have run? Even now, the league continues to battle the shadow of Donaghy's betrayal, working to rebuild the trust of millions. But for many, the scandal remains a painful reminder of the fragility of sports integrity. Fast forward to 2006, when the Miami Heat, led by a rising star named Dwayne Wade, faced the Dallas Mavericks in the NBA Finals. Dallas came out swinging, taking a 2-0 series lead. But as the series shifted to Miami, something strange began to happen. Dwayne Wade went to the free throw line on an astonishing 97 times over 6 games. 97! That's nearly 16 trips per game. And Game 5 was the breaking point. With the game on the line, Wade attempted 21 free throws, many of them from soft or outright suspicious foul calls.
Left, Wade, drive right side. Wade, 3 seconds, Wade, up with it, and he got fouled, and he'll go to the line with 1.9 left. And he does. Dwayne Wade to make the foul shot. Wade with 42. He lead. 1.9 left. Dallas has to inbound now. They gotta go the length of the court. Harris puts it up for the win. Oh, no good. And Miami wins again.
Critics argue that the NBA saw Wade as the perfect starter market, a dynamic young player who could carry the league into the future. Meanwhile, Dirk Nowitzki's Mavericks, a team built on fundamentals and international flair, were left to watch as Miami celebrated their first championship, with the echoes of whistles still fresh in their minds. Was Wade's performance a triumph of skill and grit, or did the NBA's interest play a larger role in tipping the scales? The debate continues to this day, but as contentious as a single player's whistle-filled finals performance performance can be, sometimes the controversy isn't tied to one player or call. It's the entire feel of a series. For example, take the 1993 Western Conference Finals between the Phoenix Suns and the Seattle Supersonics. Charles Barkley's Suns were the NBA's golden ticket that season, finishing with the league's best record and becoming fan favorites. But for the Sonics fans, the series felt like something more sinister was at play. Game after game, Seattle found themselves on the wrong side of the whistle. Their physical, hard-nosed defense, a hallmark of their success, was suddenly punished with a barrage of fouls at critical moments. In Game 5, Seattle committed 29 fouls to Phoenix's 17, leading to a 37-17 disparity in free throw attempts in the Suns' favor. Meanwhile, Charles Barkley seemed untouchable. Critics accused referees of giving him superstar treatment, swallowing their whistles on plays where Barkley appeared to initiate contact. In one instance during the pivotal Game 7, Barkley shot 22 free throws, single-handedly outpacing Seattle's entire team, who managed only 17 attempts. Seattle's frustration boiled over. In a heated exchange during Game 6, Gary Payton, the Sonics' fiery point guard, confronted a referee after another questionable foul call, a moment that encapsulated the team's mounting disbelief. While Phoenix ultimately advanced to the NBA Finals, where they pushed Michael Jordan's Bulls to 6 games, the series left a bitter aftertaste for Sonics fans. Many felt their team had been unfairly punished for their aggressive style, fueling the long-standing belief that stars and big-market teams get preferential treatment in the NBA. Even now, the 1993 series remains a lightning rod for conspiracy theories, a reminder that sometimes the game's outcome feels bigger than what's happening on the court. 25 years later, another playoff matchup would ignite these same suspicions. The 2018 Western Conference Finals was more than just a basketball series. It was a collision of narratives, controversies, and stakes that would shape the NBA for years to come. On one side, the Houston Rockets were a team on a mission. Armed with a revolutionary three-point shooting strategy, they had built their roster specifically to take down the reigning champions, the Golden State Warriors, led by James Harden and Chris Paul. The Rockets had the best record in the league that season, and they were determined to finally topple the Warriors dynasty. The series reached a fever pitch by Game 7, with everything on the line. The Rockets got off to a strong start, leading by 11 points at halftime, but what followed was one of the most infamous collapses in NBA history. Houston, known for their high-powered offense, missed 27 consecutive three-point attempts.
Harden behind the screen. Rebound Capella. And Gordon for 3. Gordon for 3. Just by the tone. Harden.
They are in their grill.
Here's Harden way off.
A staggering statistic that left fans in disbelief. While the Rockets' shooting woes became the focal point of headlines, many fans and analysts pointed to another story brewing beneath the surface: the officiating. Through Game 7, James Harden repeatedly attempted his signature step-back three, drawing contact from Warriors defenders. Yet time and time again, no whistles were blown. On several plays, Harden ended up on the ground after being hit on the arm or legs, only to watch the Warriors race down the court with no foul call. The frustration spilled over to the sidelines. Chris Paul, sidelined with a hamstring injury, could be seen furiously arguing with officials from the bench as the missed calls piled up. Some plays were so egregious that they became instant social media fodder. But the controversy didn't end with the final buzzer. In the days following the Warriors' victory, Houston Rockets management reportedly compiled a detailed report analyzing the officiating during the series. According to their findings, the referees missed multiple critical calls in Game 7, costing the Rockets upwards of 18 points. The report fueled suspicions that the league had vested interest in ensuring the Warriors dynasty continued, a narrative that had gained traction among fans ever since Golden State's meteoric rise in 2015. Adding to the tension, many fans pointed out the league's financial incentives to keep the Warriors in the finals. With a roster that included global icons like Steph Curry and Kevin Durant, the Warriors were the NBA's biggest draw. Ratings skyrocketed whenever Golden State played, and their dominance had become the centerpiece of the league's marketing machine. For some, the Rockets' Game 7 collapse was a story of poor execution and bad luck, but for others, it was a dark chapter that epitomized the belief that the NBA wasn't just about basketball. It was about narratives, ratings, and protecting its most valuable assets. Even now, the 2018 Western Conference Finals remains one of the most debated series in NBA history, a flashpoint for fans questioning whether the league's interests occasionally outweigh the integrity of the game. And if we're talking about integrity, we need to mention this next man, the shadiest referee in sports history. In the world of NBA officiating, few names spark as much debate as Scott Foster. To some, he's a veteran referee with over 2 decades of experience. To others, he's the face of a deeper, more unsettling belief that the league uses officials to steer results. Foster's career has been marked by controversy, but it's his uncanny ability to impact high-stakes games that has cemented his reputation in the eyes of conspiracy-minded fans. The numbers tell the story. Take Chris Paul, for example, a future Hall of Famer and one of the most respected point guards in NBA history. When Scott Foster officiates Paul's playoff games, the results are almost unbelievably bad. As of 2023, Paul's teams have an abysmal 2-17 record in post-games refereed by Foster. The streak is so infamous that even Paul himself has publicly called it out, expressing frustration after multiple losses where Foster's calls seemed to disproportionately go against his team. One of the most notable incidents occurred during the 2021 NBA Finals, when Paul's Phoenix Suns were up 2-0 against the Milwaukee Bucks. Foster officiated Game 3, and the Suns suddenly found themselves on the wrong side of questionable foul calls, losing their momentum and eventually the series. Fans couldn't help but notice the coincidence. Foster was once again at the helm when Paul's championship dreams were dashed. But Chris Paul isn't the only superstar with a rocky history involving Foster. James Harden, another elite player, has his own fraught relationship with the referee. In one particularly controversial game during the 2019 Western Conference semifinals, Harden and the Rockets were incensed by Foster's refusal to call fouls on clear contact during Harden's jump shots, a hallmark of his offensive style. Harden didn't mince words afterwards, stating, "Scott Foster, man. I never talked about officiating, but he's just different." The comment only added fuel to the fire as fans began dissecting Foster's history with Harden and Paul, questioning whether his presence in high-stakes games was a mere coincidence or something more deliberate. And Foster's name also came up during the NBA's most infamous officiating controversy, the Tim Donaghy betting scandal. Phone records revealed that Donaghy and Foster exchanged 134 calls over a 7-month period leading up to the scandal, a connection that raised eyebrows, though no concrete evidence tied Foster to Donaghy's illegal activities. While the NBA cleared Foster of any wrongdoing, the association left a stain on his reputation. And for better or worse, the drama keeps fans talking long after the final buzzer, especially over the past few years, because the NBA has found itself under a new kind of microscope. Thanks to social media, every questionable call, every non-call, and every close-up of a referee's whistle gets dissected in real time. Take, for example, the infamous landing space foul. It's a rule meant to protect shooters from injuries to their ankles, but many argue it's gone too far. Superstars like James Harden and Trae Young have become experts at drawing fouls on what looks like normal defensive plays. Social media erupts every time. Fans post slow-motion replays, highlight inconsistencies, and accuse the league of giving star players preferential treatment. And then there's the review culture. With coaches challenging calls and referees spending minutes combing through replays, some have suggested the league might be using these delays to subtly influence momentum in critical moments. While some of these calls can be chalked up to human error, others can be credited to something far more nefarious, like the belief that sometimes the NBA rigs games, depending on what city they're in. See, when it comes to shaping narratives in sports, what happens off the court can be just as influential as what happens on it. During NBC Sports' 12-year reign as the home of the NBA from 1990 to 2002, fans couldn't help but notice a glaring pattern in the network's programming. The heavy spotlight on the Chicago Bulls, New York Knicks, and Los Angeles Lakers. In the coveted primetime slot from 5:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Time, NBC seemed almost allergic to showcasing anyone outside these three cities. Coincidentally or not, Chicago, New York, and Los Angeles also happen to be the 3 largest television markets in the United States. From 1990 to 2002, the Bulls, Lakers, and Knicks dominated the final stage. Chicago played in 6 finals, the Lakers in 4, and the Knicks in 2. Every championship series except one, the Rockets' sweep of the Orlando Magic in 1995, featured at least one of these 3 marquee franchises. Fans of other franchises couldn't help but feel snubbed. The Houston Rockets, for instance, were an NBA powerhouse in the mid-90s, winning back-to-back titles in 1994 and 1995, led by their transcendent superstar Hakeem Olajuwon. Yet despite their dominance, they were rarely featured on NBC at the same level. Rockets fans noticed, and they weren't happy. Critics argued that NBC's favoritism wasn't just about basketball, it was about ratings. By prioritizing games featuring Michael Jordan's Bulls, Patrick Ewing's Knicks, and the star-studded Lakers, NBC wasn't just selling basketball, it was selling stories, rivalries, and stars in the country's biggest markets. For fans of smaller market teams, or even large market teams like Houston that didn't fit NBC's narrative, the message was clear. This perceived bias led into a larger belief that the NBA itself was more interested in promoting marketable narratives than showcasing the league's full depth of talent. Looking back, NBC NBC's coverage played a significant role in shaping how the league was perceived during one of the most iconic eras. Whether it was intentional favoritism or a calculated business strategy, the network's focus on the Bulls, Knicks, and Lakers ensured that these teams and their stars would remain synonymous with the NBA's golden age. Yeah, the NBA is no stranger to drama. Sometimes the league's storylines feel too perfect. From Hollywood-style narratives to uncanny coincidences, some fans have jokingly and not so jokingly suggested that the NBA just might be scripted. Let's start with one of the most bizarre coincidences. LeBron James and Steph Curry, two of the greatest players of this generation, were born in the same hospital. That's right, Akron General Medical Center in Ohio produced two of the biggest stars in the modern NBA. And how about the way certain games seem to perfectly set up dramatic endings? Think about the 2016 NBA Final. LeBron's Cavs were down 3-1 against the Warriors, a situation no team had ever overcome in the final. Yet, they not only came back to win, but capped it off with LeBron's iconic block and Kyrie's clutch three-pointer. It felt cinematic. Then there's the annual drama of the NBA draft. Whether when Zion Williamson, one of the most hyped prospects since LeBron, landed with the New Orleans Pelicans just weeks after the team traded away Anthony Davis, it felt like the league was rebalancing the scales, keeping a small market team relevant. Even player rivalries seemed tailor-made for entertainment. LeBron versus Steph, Giannis versus KD, these matchups dominate the playoffs and fuel debates online. Fans can't help but wonder, is the NBA leaning into these narratives to keep audiences hooked? Of course, there's no concrete evidence that the league is scripted, but when you look at the storylines, the drama, and the coincidences, it's easy to see why fans keep asking the question, how much of this is real? And how much is the NBA actually rigging games just to make more money?